I'm Brielle Carter, and I'm 22 years old. I've learned to read between the lines of silence. That's how you survive in a house where love is measured by how loudly it's given to someone else. I don't think my parents ever meant to make me feel like the extra kid, the one who just came along. But intention doesn't always matter. It's the pattern that eats at you. Growing up, I was the quiet one, the easy child. My mom said that all the time like it was a compliment. Brielle's so easy. She never complains. Never causes drama. We're lucky. And maybe I believed it for a while. I was quiet because I had to be. Because every time I tried to speak up, at dinner, during a family decision, even on vacations, it was as if my voice slipped into the walls and disappeared. Meanwhile, Ethan, my younger brother, was the golden one. Everything he did was a big deal. His soccer games? Full family attendance. My debate championships? Mom once texted me good luck during the final round. He got a standing ovation in our living room for remembering his lines in a school play. I once performed a monologue from The Crucible for my drama class and came home glowing, and my dad changed the subject to the Knicks game before I could even finish describing the scene. It's not that they hated me. They just saw Ethan more clearly. I was the one behind the camera. Always. Every family Christmas card. I took the photo. Ethan's Instagram-worthy birthday cakes. I baked them. All the memories, his first school dance, his college acceptance surprise, I captured them. Cropped myself out. Without even being asked. I guess at some point, I started believing that's where I belonged. Behind the scenes. Out of focus. Until recently, when the hurt became too sharp to ignore. It happened 3 weeks ago. Ethan was turning 19. He's taking a gap year before starting college in California, and my parents have been extra delicate with him lately. Like they're terrified he'll float away if they don't tether him with praise and gifts. I texted Ethan on the morning of his birthday. No reply. No big deal. He sleeps in. Then, around 6 p.m., my best friend Cassie messaged me. Why didn't you tell me about Ethan's party? Attached was a blurry Instagram story. Ethan, my parents, and about 10 of his friends sitting at a private table at the Dovetail, one of the priciest restaurants in the city. Champagne. Balloons. A giant gold cake. My parents grinning ear to ear. I felt cold. I zoomed in. Mom was holding a glass up like she was giving a toast. Dad had that proud, my son, look on his face. And me? I wasn't there. Because they never invited me. I stared at the photo for minutes, trying to convince myself I'd missed a text. Maybe my phone had glitched. Maybe there was a surprise waiting for me too. But no. Nothing. I called my mom the next day. I wasn't angry. Just hollow. She picked up cheerfully. Hey, sweetie. Everything okay? I swallowed the lump in my throat. I saw the pictures from last night. Pause. Oh. Yeah, well, it was kind of last minute. Everyone had reservations at that restaurant. And balloons. And a cake with his name on it. Another pause. Mom sighed. Brielle, we didn't want to distract you. You've been so busy with finals. My finals ended last week. Her tone shifted slightly. Like she knew she was caught but wasn't going to admit it. Well, Ethan's just had such a rough year. We wanted to do something special. Right. Because my year, working 2 jobs, surviving college on ramen noodles and caffeine, dealing with roommates who used my shampoo like it was communal property, that wasn't rough enough, I guess. Then came the final blow. I'm glad you understand, she said. He deserves this trip. I mean Paris. Can you believe it? I blinked. What trip? The one we surprised him with last night. 2 weeks in Paris. We booked the flights, hotel, everything. He's always wanted to see the Eiffel Tower. I sat down on my bed. They had booked my brother a 2-week, all expenses paid vacation to France. The same parents who once told me they couldn't help with study abroad because it was too expensive. I was quiet for too long, I guess because Mom said, "Hello." I have to go, I said and hung up. That night, I lay in bed thinking of every birthday I ever had. The ones where I planned my own parties, baked my own cupcakes because Mom had to work late. The year I turned 16 and got a Target gift card. The year Ethan turned 16 and got a custom gaming PC. I felt stupid. Not just because I hadn't been invited, but because I still hoped, at 22, for something different. For recognition. For equity. For a damn slice of cake. I opened my laptop. Clicked into my bank app. $2,618 in savings. I had been putting money aside to maybe get a car next year. Something used, nothing fancy. But now, I scrolled through flight websites. Typed in, New York to Paris. I didn't even know what I was looking for. I just knew I had to do something. Not to make them hurt, but to make myself seen. Because for 22 years I'd been quiet. Good. Convenient. Forgettable. And something inside me was done being edited out of my own story. I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about Ethan's face when he blew out the candles. Not because I saw it, but because I imagined it. The look of joy. The way our parents probably leaned in, eyes shining, whispering about how grown-up he was. I wondered what it would have felt like to be there. Not behind the scenes. Not in the background. But at the damn table. Laughing. Toasting. Existing. Instead, I watched it happen through someone else's blurry Instagram story, with that stupid gold cake front and center. I kept thinking, why do they treat me like this? But that wasn't the real question. The real question was, why do I keep accepting it? At some point, I sat up in bed and pulled out my laptop again. I checked my bank balance, still $2,618. I felt a rush of adrenaline, like I was doing something dangerous. Maybe I was. I typed into Google, flights from JFK to Charles de Gaulle, June 10th. I remembered that date. Mom had mentioned it offhand once on a call. I acted like I didn't care. Like it didn't get me knowing my brother was going to Paris, while I juggled barista shifts and graded freshman essays. I found the airline Ethan usually flew. Punched in the dates. There it was, Flight 149, nonstop from JFK to Paris, June 10th, 7:15 p.m. I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was spite. Maybe it was survival. I booked myself a seat. One row behind him. I chose a window seat, just like I always used to get stuck with on family trips, stuck watching the world pass by. Not this time. This time, I was going to walk on that plane, sit 2 feet behind my golden boy brother, and let him know I wasn't invisible anymore. The week leading up to the trip, I didn't tell anyone. Cassie asked why I wasn't around much, and I lied. Said I was recharging. My roommate thought I was visiting my aunt in Vermont. I didn't correct her. I packed light. A carry-on and a backpack. Some jeans, a couple of dresses, a cheap red trench coat I found on sale at a vintage shop. But I did splurge on one thing, a red satin dress with a slit up the leg and sleeves that hung off the shoulder. I didn't know when I'd wear it. I just knew I would. On June 10th, I got to JFK 3 hours early. I wore a black hoodie, sunglasses, no makeup. I stood near the Hudson newsstand, sipping on overpriced coffee and watching the departure board flash my gate number. And then I saw him. Ethan. He was wearing a varsity jacket he hadn't earned, a hand-me-down look he wore like a badge. Behind him were 2 of his friends. All 3 of them were laughing, loud, carefree. Not a single worry in the world. They didn't see me. Of course they didn't. I followed behind casually, scanned my boarding pass, and took my seat, 31A. He was in 30C. I watched him through the crack between the seats. He was texting Mom something. I imagined it was a selfie. A made it to the gate kind of moment. He had no idea his sister was 20 inches behind him, watching him the way I'd watched him my whole life. The flight itself felt surreal. I didn't sleep. I barely moved. I just stared at the back of his head and thought about everything we never said to each other. The years we spent under the same roof, orbiting different stars. How I helped him finish science projects while he told people I was just really into school. How he once crashed my laptop and laughed about it. He wasn't evil. He was just trained. Trained to take. To be adored. To believe that the universe, our family, was meant to orbit him. I finally understood. I wasn't angry at Ethan for being the favorite. I was angry at myself for letting them convince me I deserved to be anything less. We landed in Paris, just before 9 a.m. The terminal smelled like coffee and metal and fresh morning. People were buzzing around in every direction. Ethan and his friends headed for baggage claim. I waited back, pretending to check my phone. I gave them a good 40-second head start. And then I followed. They stopped near a big glass wall, just before customs. Ethan pulled out his phone, turned to his friends, and said, "One SEC, I gotta get a shot." He held the phone up for a selfie. Right then, I stepped into the background. Sunglasses off. Hair down. Big smile.
Click.
He lowered the phone, looked at the picture, and froze. I saw his eyes widen, like he thought he was hallucinating. I waved. "Hey," I said calmly. Small world. His friends stared. One of them whispered, "Dude, is that your sister?" Ethan walked up, his mouth hanging open. "What are you doing here?" I shrugged. Needed a break. Thought I'd treat myself. He blinked. "You're on my flight?"
Yep.
31A. He looked genuinely unsettled. "Why didn't you say anything?" "Oh, you didn't know?" I smiled. "Mom must have assumed you told me." I didn't wait for a response. I just walked past him toward the taxi line. I'd already booked my Airbnb on Rue Saint-Honoré, a little studio above a bakery. It smelled like bread and citrus. The moment I stepped into the Paris sunlight, I felt it. That thrill you get when you realize you're no longer asking for space. You're taking it. My Airbnb was nothing fancy, but it was mine. A tiny loft just above a boulangerie. The walls were pale blue, and when I opened the window, I could hear Parisians chattering on cafe patios and smell fresh croissants baking beneath my feet. That first day, I didn't do much. Walked to the Seine. Watched people sip wine before noon like it was the most natural thing in the world. Ate a raspberry tart alone on a bench in Le Marais. I kept thinking about Ethan, wondering when he'd tell her parents. What would he even say? "Hey, remember that daughter you forgot to invite to my birthday? She's in Paris too." The image made me laugh. That night, I went radio silent. No social posts. No location tags. I wanted Ethan to sweat. Sure enough, by the second morning, I got a text.
Mom.
"Hey, sweetie. Hope you're doing well. Just checking in. Everything okay?"
Vague.
Suspicious. I replied 6 hours later with just a thumbs-up emoji. Let them wonder. 2 days into my Paris ghost tour, I made my move. See, I wasn't just there for the drama. I was there to take up space they never saved for me. And I knew exactly where to start. When Mom had emailed Ethan's surprise trip details weeks earlier, she accidentally CC'd both of us. I doubt she even noticed. But I did. Friday night, 7 p.m. Eiffel Tower dinner. Le Jules Verne restaurant. Table under Ethan Carter. Reservation for 4. I had already called ahead and explained that I'd be surprising my baby brother for his birthday. The maitre d' didn't care. As long as I tipped well and wore something nice, I could be seated nearby. So Friday night came. I stood in front of the mirror in my little Airbnb, slipping into the red satin dress I had packed just for this. It fit like a secret weapon. At 6:55 p.m., I arrived at the private elevator of the Eiffel Tower. A uniformed man escorted me up to the second level. My ears popped from the height. The view? Unreal. Paris shimmered in golds and purples, the Seine curling through the city like a ribbon. Inside, everything felt expensive, crystal glasses, quiet jazz, the kind of lighting that makes everyone look like they're in a movie. The maitre d' greeted me by name. "Miss Carter, right this way." I was seated at the table just diagonal from Ethan's reservation. The lighting was perfect. We'd make eye contact the moment he walked in. So I waited. I ordered a glass of champagne and sipped slowly. I wanted to feel every single bubble. At 7:10, they arrived. Ethan, his 2 friends, a 4th guy I didn't know, all dressed like they were trying to impress someone. Probably Paris itself. They approached their table, and then Ethan saw me. His mouth literally opened. I gave a small, elegant wave. His friends looked at me, then at him, then back at me. The maitre d' offered to take a photo of their group. Ethan declined. They sat. Ethan kept glancing over. I didn't look away. 20 minutes passed. I was on my second glass of champagne and finishing a beet tartlet when he got up and walked over. He leaned slightly toward my table, trying to look calm. His face was flushed. Seriously? What is this? I tilted my head. Dinner. In the same restaurant? You're not the only Carter in Paris, I said. Besides, this was on your itinerary. It looked nice. You read my itinerary? I smiled. Don't worry, I'm not sitting at your table. Wouldn't want to steal the spotlight. He exhaled sharply, like I was being unreasonable by existing in his field of vision. You're doing this for attention. I finally put down my fork. I looked at him, really looked at him, and then I said, do you know what it feels like to watch your family throw you away like a used napkin? He blinked. I didn't raise my voice.
Didn't need to.
I kept going. You got a Paris trip. A private dinner. Champagne toasts and gold cake. I got a hope finals went well. He looked uncomfortable, like he wanted to leave but couldn't figure out how without making it worse. Why didn't you just talk to Mom and Dad? I laughed, low and quiet. Talk to them? The last time I tried to talk to Mom, she told me I was being dramatic for not being invited to your party. I leaned in slightly. And the last time I talked to you, you barely looked up from your phone. He opened his mouth to respond. Closed it again. Then, softly. So what now? You just follow me around Paris? I tilted my glass toward him.
No. Just this.
Just enough to remind you I exist. He stared at me, stunned. And then I saw something crack. Just a little. Not guilt, but maybe realization. That I wasn't playing second anymore. That I had flipped the script. He returned to his table, quiet. His friends whispered to each other. I stayed. Ordered dessert. Something with chocolate and sea salt and orange zest. It was delicious. As I finished, the maitre d' passed by and smiled. Your brother seemed surprised. I laughed. He usually is when I show up. That night, back in my room, I opened Instagram. Ethan had posted a photo of the tower from their table. But not a single picture of the dinner. Not even a group shot. And the next morning, I noticed he archived the selfie from the airport, the one where I photobombed him. That told me everything. I hadn't ruined his trip. That was never the goal. I just made sure, for once in our lives, that he couldn't forget I was there. And neither could they. Paris was quieter after that night. Not because the city changed. It was still full of honking mopeds, clinking glasses, accordion players on the metro. But I was quieter. My chest didn't feel like it was splintering anymore. I spent the next few days the way people do when they're healing, not loudly, not obviously. I wandered through old bookstores in the Latin Quarter, scribbled thoughts in my phone while sipping overpriced espresso, and cried once in the Rodin Museum bathroom, not because I was sad, but because for the first time in years, I finally felt seen. Not by my family. Not by Ethan. By me. And that mattered more than I thought it would. Ethan never approached me again in Paris. I saw him once, across a plaza near Montmartre, eating crepes with his friends. He clocked me, then quickly looked away. I didn't wave. I didn't need to. That was the beauty of it. He knew I could. He'd seen me step into his world unannounced and unbothered, and he hadn't known what to do with that. It was enough. When I landed back in New York, it was raining. I took the AirTran to Jamaica Station, and then the subway back to my apartment. No one was waiting for me. No welcome back text. Not from Mom. Not from Dad. Not from Ethan. It should have hurt. But it didn't. Because this time, I wasn't expecting anything. I dropped my bag on the floor and stood by the window, watching the city lights flicker through the rain. I felt like I had walked out of a room where I had been whispering for years, and finally, I had shut the door behind me. 3 days later, the call came.
Mom.
I watched the screen ring twice before picking up. Hey, I said flatly. Hi, honey. Just checking in.
Pause.
You didn't tell us you were in Paris. I smiled softly. Neither did you. She tried to laugh, but it cracked halfway through. Well, we were surprised. I figured. There was a long silence. Then she asked, Did you go to find Ethan? I leaned back on my couch, stared at the ceiling.
No.
I went to find myself. She didn't respond right away. Then, your brother said you showed up at dinner. That I did. And that you embarrassed him. I closed my eyes for a second. He's embarrassed I exist, Mom. That didn't start in Paris. More silence. I knew what she wanted. She wanted me to admit it was a stunt. To say I acted out. That I felt guilty. But I didn't. So I stayed quiet.
Finally, she sighed.
We never meant to make you feel left out. I didn't rush to fill the silence this time. I let it hang. Eventually, I said, "It's not about the trip, Mom. Or the cake. Or the champagne. It's about you treating me like the second draft of a daughter." She gasped. "That's not true." "No," I said. "Name the last time you asked me what I wanted for my birthday. Or called just to say you were proud of me." She didn't answer. That was my answer. The call ended, not explosively, just empty. Like most of my childhood.
But I didn't cry.
I wasn't angry anymore. Just done pretending. 2 weeks passed. Life returned to normal on the outside, barista shifts, job interviews, trying to figure out if grad school was even worth the debt. Then one night, while scrolling through Instagram, I saw something that made me pause. Ethan's profile. He had archived nearly every photo from Paris. The fancy restaurant?
Gone.
The crepes in Montmartre?
Gone.
The Eiffel Tower group shot?
Gone.
But one photo remained. The very first one. That blurry airport selfie. The one where I had stepped into the background, smiling, waving, wide-eyed in sunglasses. He had cropped me out when he posted it originally. But now he had re-uploaded the full version. No caption. Just us, him in the foreground, and me in the back, undeniably there. It wasn't an apology. Not even close. But it was a crack in the glass. A tiny, almost invisible, acknowledgement. I see you now. That night, I lit a candle by my bed, pulled my journal onto my lap, and wrote. Sometimes, the loudest revenge isn't shouting back, it's simply refusing to disappear. It's showing up in their favorite place, in your favorite dress, and making them see the person they left out of the frame. I smiled, closed the journal, and turned off the light.